we just watched the first two episodes of Spider-Man 1 and 2. I gotta say, the fact that Marvel didn't really seem to be pushing this, I feel like they don't have the biggest faith in their animation department sometimes. It's kind of the vibe I get. Because I remember, like, What If Season 2, we had a similar thought process.
We were like, why didn't no one talk about this? It was actually pretty good.
But then again, we were bigger on What If Season 2 than
anyone
most
else.
people were.
And then Season 3, we were not big on.
Yeah, we weren't big on that. And to see what they've done here, but to know how much, it seemed like a couple years ago they were hyping the show up a lot.
Yeah, D23, like 2 years ago, I feel like we saw stuff.
Yeah,
a while ago now.
They were making, that was when it was a Spider-Man freshman year, as Aaron pointed out when we were talking about it. And now it's finally here, and I feel like the lead up to it, they didn't really push this that much, and they've been trying to push it a little bit more in the past week. Like, oh, it's coming out, guys! Don't forget, it's coming out in a couple of days. So part of the marketing behind it, I'm tracking that because I'm sure there's some people who probably even got this upload and was like, didn't realize it was coming out. It had me a bit worried, but I had my faith, I had my hope at least, and my personal feelings, I felt really good watching this show. I thought it was an actually really entertaining time. I like the blend of messing with expectations from what you know of MCU Spider-Man, messing with the stuff that we know from all the Spider-Man, and then flipping some stuff on its head, while also seeming like I think it gets away with switching stuff up because they obviously really love Spider-Man. I think that's the saving grace of it. It doesn't have that whatever people thought about like Last Jedi, that interpretation. I'm hoping, this is what I think about the show so far. I don't know what other people are thinking. I know that with like stuff like The Last Jedi, there were people who were like, this is like a spit on the fans of Star Wars, and this guy doesn't like Star Wars. Not everyone feels that way, but that was like some of the way that vitriol went down, right? And with this, whenever they decide to flip some stuff, like to me, my first alarm was like, oh shit, I feel like Uncle Ben's death plays a big factor into Peter Parker. And I believe that was something that people even thought about just the live action version of Tom Holland. Obviously, we were seeing him arc into his origins with No Way Home, and like they give it to Aunt May and all that. But to see what they do here with every little flip that they do, I think they can get away with it right down to Norman Osborn, because obviously they really love Spider-Man. They honor it with the comics they honor it with the appeal, the little Easter eggs and such. So I think like it's a feel-good time to bring Spider-Man back to the grounded era of just being a neighborhood Spider-Man. And I feel like we just haven't seen that in so long. As great as like the animated Spider-Verse movies are, they're Spider-Verse multiversal movies. They're not being in the neighborhood, kicking ass, saving names, going to high school. So I thought it was a great time. I had a really, really good time watching this show. Aaron, my man, what'd you think?
I thought it was great. I had a lot of fun with it, and I had high expectations going in because my favorite Spider-Man adaptations from the comics are going to be Spectacular Spider-Man and the PS4 game. I feel like those are the two properties that have gotten it closest to what I expect Spider-Man to be, and I'm happy to say that this show kind of lives up to that expectation. It subverts a Spider-Man property in an interesting way where it's still its own thing. It still does things that are maybe different from what we expect a Spider-Man type show or Spider-Man property to be, but it honors the heart of Spider-Man. It's able to capture the down on his luck Peter Parker stuff. It's able to show diversity and complexity, not only with Peter Parker, but his supporting cast as well. And I feel like that's not something we get in a lot of other shows, at least that I've seen outside of the Spectacular Spider-Man. Going to Lonnie's house, spending some time with his family, showing the subversion of what we think of, like kind of how, like Coy said, of the jock character. And then even changing his supporting cast, it really goes to show that yes, those things are important to Peter Parker and his history. All those characters play a big part in influencing him and his journey, but we don't necessarily need to follow those characters that we're accustomed to still get that effect, because these other characters can play similar roles or even different roles to influence who he is, not only as a character, but as a man and as a hero as well. And I like the fact that we spent more time with Peter in his daily life and getting to see the different colors of that relationship or those relationships. I like getting to see him with his new Aunt May, and I like getting to see the things that we're familiar with, that we're maybe accustomed to, like the almost shot for shot recreation of that Civil War scene, but then having that subversion of oh no, it's actually Norman Osborn. Having that subversion of, oh no, this is actually what we're doing with revealing his identity early. He needs to be more careful with these type of things. But also something that I don't think I've ever seen in a thing outside of maybe the Spider-Man video game, this the humanity of what it's like to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, of seeing how you affect your community, seeing how even though people are criminals or can do things that are in the nature of, you know, things are illegal, it doesn't define who they are. There is such thing as reform and regret, and having an influence not only on cleaning up the streets but affecting the world around you for the better. And I love the fact that we're getting to at least see a sprinkle of that in these first couple episodes. I'm feeling really good about the direction of where the show is going to go, because it's already starting off on a strong foot. And it really sucks that they're kind of burying it or not giving it the love or hype that it deserves, because so far it's great. I love the fact that we're playing in an actual world. And then the last thing I'll say before we pass it off, the animation style reminds me of, if you guys remember this game, Ultimate Spider-Man, the video game that came out in the early 2000s, and the way that they utilize panels. I think all of that's great. It's giving me very nostalgic vibes, and I like the way that they walk this line between modern media and Spider-Man in the modern world, while also paying so much love and homage to the history of Spider-Man through the 60s to the present. It's beautiful, and I'm really excited for where it's going.
Yeah. Forget that X-Men 97 was Marvel Animation. They really showed that a lot of love. I just remember that right now. John!
Oh.
And my favorite thing is, like, I know Coy listens to talk.
Sure.
So I just want him to just really just be butter. I want him
So full of listening.
yes.
Yes.
Overflowing with listening.
He's just revving that engine while it's in.
Listening. Ears
Just gonna
bulging
take
with
a moment.
So
to-
please take your time.
Yes.
audio overflowing.
As much as
Let me get a breath going really quick here. No, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I was curious coming into this partly because Marvel animation is something that always excites me conceptually, and every time I behold it in waking life, it always feels like they're trying to save money, and I don't know why. And like the what if animation style is not something I really like. There are good images, and when I'm watching it I can get into it, but generally speaking I did not love that animation style. And here there's a bit of an uncanny valley. I can tell that this is not 2D, even though it wants to behave and look like it's 2D. However, I do find what they're doing here, visually speaking, much more appealing. And because again you're splitting between comic 2D animation and a 3D rendering system, I think it's kind of a neat, like, I'm willing to kind of see how this hits over the course of one full season, and just see how that choice of I don't like your Marvel, you grew off of the drawn image. I feel like some level of TLC, animation is expensive, some level of TLC I feel like ought to be given to the craft of these things. And you guys were pointing out like the background characters, and I am sort of like, that is an interesting thing that you just have these background plates essentially with characters moving in front of them, and part of me finds that charming because I'm like, well, if it was a comic they would be still, but then the other half of my brain goes, it's not. They should be moving. But that stuff aside, I really did enjoy the look, the feel, and just all the tonal elements of this from, again, the character design work for the most part, and the way it articulated. Just I was a little at a breath, both excited and wary when Doctor Strange showed up, because this could either be just a fun primer for the fact that it's a shared universe, or this could be a great admission of the fact that we're betraying the title scenario a little bit. But it thankfully feels more like the former. It's like, you have this big world that feels full of potential, but that is not distracting me constantly with like, let's go cosmic right away. There's an Iron Man thing in the window, and at first I was like, all these little things could get annoying and feel like we're trying to skip past it. Again, with all the Uncle Ben stuff and the Peter stuff, there was a lot of things in the first couple minutes I was kind of worried about. But the further it got and the more it bothered to articulate just what it means to be the neighborhood Spider-Man, especially that bit with the girl and the pizza, I thought was like a really nice thing I had never quite seen in one of these before. And especially coming off of something like Spectacular Spider-Man with you, Coy, that did such a nice job of pulling you into the school drama, into the home drama, and then reminding you, oh, this is a Spider-Man show. That's right. There's going to be action and supervillains and stuff. I feel like this is spiritually towing that line in a way that doesn't feel. It feels like they took some notes from that. And that show even had a few subversions or a few nice twists on the lore, so that again, people like Coy and I like the three of you. I feel like in our little set of wireless bars here, I'm on the lowest frequency in terms of the greater lexicon. But you can have an expert watch this, know some of what's coming, but also be thrown by some of the fun choices. And I like when a show like this can do that, which it feels like it is. And two, just like the little things, the music they choose and the way that they articulate the kids' dynamics together. And I also really like the fact that they made Niko Minoru his buddy for this, just like from what I remember of Runaways and stuff like that, and the little potential that suggests for this, and just for, again, what feels sort of like a what if in context of the greater MCU. This was a really promising start, and I'm really excited to check out more of it.
Oh, it's great to hear.
Yeah.
All right, so we're at 11 minutes of Coy not talking, which is
Almost an episode.
It's almost a new world record.
It's on the whole episode. I've been silent.
Aaron, you got anything more? You want
Well, we're done with the video.
It's great. It's been fun,
I
guys.
saw the videos of when I leave, and now I'm back, and I receive them to my face. This is what I get once I return.
Everyone's here.
What'd you think, Coy? Say things we didn't say.
This got better the more they changed, and I love that.
Cool. Hell yeah.
What I don't love is when things change and it causes no ripple effects, and that's what I had a problem with What If with. This actually feels like it's subverting expectations and giving you a scenario wherein the multiverse actually has ramifications. They subvert expectation by going so far as having sound cues, frame-by-frame recreations, and then landing on the inversion of Tony Stark, which is another billionaire that is more nefarious than good instead of the inversion. They use characters that you expect to go one direction, and even in the marketing, they showed Doctor Strange in the opening years ago, and I was like, friendly neighbor. When they changed the name from Freshman, I was like, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Why is there a spider involved in the Doctor Strange scenario? But that, I think even that marketing was, the more they change, the more I'm like, oh, this universe gets to surprise me. It gets to surprise other Spider-Man fans. It gets to be a new universe that kids can attach to. They can be like, oh, I love that story. And I even like that Butane literally has dialogue that sounds like what Shocker would say. So not only is he visually, Shocker with the shackles and all those things, he actually even dialogue-wise sounds like it. So they're even playing with expectations of fandom characters. He also takes out Butane in the same way he took out Sandman in Amazing Spider-Man #4. When he fights him in the school, he makes sure to use his surrounding in very specific ways. And I thought Spectacular Spider-Man that did that really well, where it's the science he's not quite there yet, but I think that's coming. I love that they did an environmental attack. I like that he uses his surroundings against a particular villain because he's smart, because he's Spider-Man. I loved the scene. And this actually, in many ways, reminds me of what I hope we get out of Superman. I love the scene where he's talking down the girl crying, because it reminds me of All-Star Superman, where that gothic girl is maybe going to jump and kill herself. And it's Superman's humanity that endears you to him. What I think we've lost in the MCU Spider-Man is what that does is it gives you such cacophony of tie-in that it feeds TikTokers, and all it gives them is fuel for content. What you need is ambiance building, and having an Iron Man little thing is not going to be like the most exciting video, but it shows the world already has these things. It's not leading necessarily to something. It gets to just be something. And I think the Superman movie is going to be a universe wherein heroes already exist, and Superman's our eye line into this world so we connect to him. Spider-Man gets to be the eye line into a world that already has heroes, and we get to see him evolve, but they don't still have to feed us the pearls. They get to give us an opening montage where we care about these things. So the more this show changes from the lore, it enhances not only what-if concepts, multiverse concepts, but Spider-Man as a character, because at the end of the day, as long as you know he is overburdened with things, he can't balance the Parker luck, he's got people that he cares about, and he cannot always juggle all those things, and he's going to make the right decision to the best of his ability, even at sometimes the cost of others, and that's the weight he just stacks on that responsibility. That's Spider-Man, and they found that in a brand new way.
Yeah. Well said, Coy.
I don't think you guys had said any of that. I listened with all my ears.
That's funny because I didn't listen to one word.
I know.
Just-
I know. It was only 4 minutes. It was a 4-minute rant.
I was
on,
like-
I even made sure I said the same amount of time so as to not
I
be
was like,
rude.
what am I gonna say?
so as
when
to
Coy
not be
is done?
rude. That's what I
was
said.
concerned
I'm gonna
about.
just. I'm
Thank
not
you for
really
giving me
listening.
the time to come
I'm
up
not
with
really
new
listening as much
points.
as I was waiting to speak.
Yeah.
And I understand that. Also, Amadeus Cho is dope to see in animation. Totally Awesome Hulk is the character he becomes.
You make a great point, especially with after experiencing What If with you. I think you make an excellent point about the actual use of multiversal plays. I like how they're not even saying like this is a multiverse. Like you just
don't have to.
You just conclude it, and the play on the ramifications that happen in a multiversal when you switch things out, because you can see a What If episode of like, what if Norman Osborn was the one who showed up at Peter's house instead,
Yeah.
or the hell the freaking title would be, right? And then you would feel like this episode needed to be longer and more needed to be done. And they rushed
like
through
a
this.
show?
Yeah, like this is like you need a show to explore this concept. And my favorite aspects of it were like a hybrid of like what all you guys talked about. The SL. It seems like a lot of focus was going on that scene with that girl who was crying when she stole from the pizza shop.
That's the best scene, I think, in these two episodes.
It's the most emotional scene.
Most
That
surprising.
It's in fact most effective scene, right? In terms of just like getting at the heart of what this show is aiming to do. And I like that they're taking the time to deal with the details of taking care of a neighborhood. The movies tend to just kind of, even if they do it in like a montage.
It's setting up like
Yeah.
a Rocky montage, but
Like in
we
Homecoming.
want
Yeah.
the fight not to be with Ivan Drago. I mean, we're okay with that, but as long as Ivan Drago is still in the neighborhood, like the montage
Yeah.
shouldn't be the entirety of the neighborhood.
Yeah, they really, even though they harken back to because in the Homecoming, the guy who says do a flip, you see a little cameo. of him
Yeah, it's
there.
cute.
Yeah.
But the details are what led Spider-Man to becoming the greater Spider-Man, was the mistakes and failures he made along the way and the lessons he had to learn while just being in the intermediate level of the streets, you know?
Totally.
So I think it's actually fun because I agree with what you were saying, John. When they introduced Doctor Strange, I was like, wow, this whole opening is Doctor Strange, you know? And I wasn't getting that excited about it, but I thought to have the contrast was smart. Like, look at this super large superhero fight. Now we're going to go so zeroed in on what this Peter Parker guy does. And it really did hit me that I was enjoying this show. I did say it out loud. When he's walking with Lonnie and he's dealing with these problems of like wanting to court a girl. And then he's like now becoming friends with Lonnie instead of like, oh yeah, I am totally losing sight of this guy is Spider-Man, because I was getting concerned of, am I going to be enjoying this show only when he's Spider-Man and not really enjoying all the other shit around it? Because there are aspects in its animation touch. And there was that episode. Did you see Invincible season 2, Coy?
No.
Okay.
Oh.
I don't want to ruin.
Headshot.
I don't want to ruin the bit. But Aaron, do you remember that bit when he's meeting a Robert Kirkman-like character and they're talking about the ways they have to cut costs on animation?
Right, and the
Yeah.
stillness and showing characters back to
Yeah. There's this
great.
very extremely meta bit about animation, especially with television shows. And so as we were talking about it reminded me of that, of like when they had to step it into Invincible and be like, here's why season 2 took so long. When you guys bitch at us, here's what's going on. And then
That scene was great.
even with the background player comment that I initiated, I was like, oh yeah, well, I remember hearing that aspect of when it comes to television shows especially, it's very hard to put these together. And studios often struggle with getting them out on time. And this show, as you guys know, was in development hell not development hell for so long. It was just being developed for so freaking long and getting done for so long. That I'm like, oh yeah, you got to kind of give some passes on it, because when it was working, which was a lot of the time, the only times I really got pulled out was sometimes when Peter's talking and like the mouth movement just didn't seem to sync with what he was saying. And outside of that, there are other times where I just thought it looked really cool, and it did have you said a nostalgia about the Ultimate Spider-Man game, Aaron, and I used to play that mobile Spider-Man game where he's just like one of those games where they're just automatically running and you got to move left to right.
Oh, like Subway Surfers.
Yeah. Then you got to like swing and shit, and it kind of. But when it would go into like the movie stuff, it looked like that, but in a way that felt more expensive. So I did, and with a bit of like that, like what was that freaking 90s show? Not Magic School Bus. Recess?
Recess?
Yeah.
Yes,
It has a bit of that like
Yeah.
90s animation
Yeah.
touch to it,
Yeah, a
which
little
feels intentional based off of the context of how a lot of this is being presented, especially in panel format. So yeah, I thought it was really Really cool.
I'm really excited to watch the rest of this with you guys. Like, I was a
Same.
little worried that I wasn't going to love it. And it's like, it's hard when you're covering a show and you're like, I got to rally. But instead, like, I'm genuinely excited week to week for this.
I was okay with us ripping into it. I was worried though, but I had a feeling. That's why I wanted the four of us to be together. I just had a feeling like they spent so long working on this. It's got to be worth something.
And it's Spider-Man.
And it's
like,
Spider-Man.
It's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Well, and you want those little things that hint at unique charms. And I thought the other fight with Butane actually kind of hit that too, because like we've seen a lot of Spider-Man fights in a lot of different scenarios and contexts, and even that kind of brought in a fun vignette within the fight where it's like, oh, I launched him through to the pet shop, and now I gotta save all the pets, and now I also have to think about the fact that like I just wrecked some dude's pet shop, which is now spreading this problem, and not to mention Butane got the wrong building.
Yeah.
Like that created a whole little vignette story inside of itself. And two, you have that lovely friction. I think when Spider-Man is working, arguably every time he has to go be Spider-Man, your initial thought should be, damn it. And then it's up to the fight to pull you in enough to be like, oh yeah, now have a good time, even though I'm sad for everything else in Peter's life because of this exact thing.
Yeah.
And
And the subversions with Norman in that moment where we know he's going to end up back there. It had done a good enough job with that scene that I'd forgotten about the Norman waiting.
Yeah.
And then I liked that we were all like, happy he's there, sad he's there, angry he's there. And I don't think a single one of us thought it was going to be like, and he knows he's Spider-Man. Like,
Yeah.
they
No,
did such a
not at
good
all.
job doing the good writing thing where you forget you're waiting on a ticking clock to tick off. And then once it ticks, we're all like, is it just you should have came in earlier? Or,
Yeah.
and that would have been Z on my A to Z of what it was going to call him the office for.
100%.
sure, yeah.
Can someone remind me of the ending of Spectacular Spider-Man, the cliffhanger that never got? I remember something to do.
Oh, it was Norman Osborn getting on a plane and then
Yeah.
like, don't apologize. I never do. And then to show the fact that he was blonde, he was like still alive after the Goblin bomb thing. And then
I've only seen it once years ago, like many years ago when you first gave it to me. Did Norman know he was Spider-Man?
did Norman know he was Spider-Man? I don't think so.
It was teased that he
No.
did over and over again. That was the bait and switch that he didn't know yet, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. It
No,
was
yeah,
a
he
year
didn't
ago for
know.
us.
He didn't know.
Okay.
The other thing I really liked was just the take on, at least as of this episode. I know we said in the intro credits, it looks like there will be many potential suits, but like this early stage suit with the big cables and the pressurized tank, I thought
Yeah.
was a really cool take that I haven't seen before personally. So.
Yeah.
Also, things I've never seen before. If my memory serves correctly, this is the 10th Spider-Man show since the 1960s, and I believe this is the first one that's ever paid this volume of homage to the history of Spider-Man in the comics up until present day. And I like the fact that we're paying homage to the stuff that's come before us with Spider-Man, but also having this like 90s-esque yet modern like hip-hop theme that we've never had for a
Yeah.
Spider-Man show, and I love it. It's my favorite one since Spectacular.
And
It's a vibe.
remixing the classic old 60s,
60s,
theme
yeah.
song.
I love
yeah.
that as the opening.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is great.
I can't believe you're saying Invincible season 2 though. Man,
Busy.
Boy.
Dude.
dude,
Coy.
Busy.
it's like
How
7.5
dare you,
hours of your
Coy.
Yeah,
life.
that's a day of busy.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm suggesting
When
watch
I
it all
watch
in a
season
day.
1, I'm going to
That's what I'm
force you
saying.
to watch season 2.
Greg, John, and I reacted to season 2. It'll do great. Since there's no reaction to season 2 on the channel, it'll be great.
Yeah, there's
There's
definitely no
100%
invisible
reactions.
reactions. What are you talking about? I never had to
Yeah.
prep any of those.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I mean, I think it's only like this is airing around the same time Invincible season 3 comes out. And-
Yeah.
Well,
which is
and that's
awesome.
a pretty great
Let them
season
fight.
of television.
Let
I'll
them
say.
fight.
It's really good so far.
Pretty great season of television. All right, guys. Well, what did you think about Spider-Man? What are your pros? What are your cons? Do you think this show will grow in viewership? Are you just waiting for Daredevil to come out? Leave your thoughts down below. Thwip that like button on the way out. Thank you, gents, for being here. See you guys for the next 4 uploads. Nope, 3 uploads. Whoop, whoop. Flev Doran.
Flavor Flev.
What? I have never enhanced Flev's profile.
Oh, let's do it. I think he's.
Have you?
I have once, because a couple times actually, because I think he's in front of a psych poster.
That's what it is.
Yes, he's in front of a psych poster. Flev kind of looks like my friend Patrick. A little bit.
He looks a lot like an actor whose face I can see, but can't tell you any movies he's been in. Bro, he's one of those guys I've
He's
seen.
a
in,
bad
like,
guy.
There's even so many movies where I'm like, I see this guy's face clearly, but I can't tell you one movie he's been in,
Oh,
so
I'm
I can make this a
curious.
reference.
Trying to see if I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, what is that guy's name? He's obviously a man with that. Are you Does he like look like you shaved your head, or are you intentionally bald?
Oh, it's okay. Yeah. Is this a hairstyle or
Wait,
is
no,
this
both
a,
would be intentionally bald. Are you naturally bald, or
or are you bald by choice?
bald by choice? Yeah,
You shave
That's
your
the
head.
name of my serious ass action film, Bald by Choice.
Bald by choice is a guy who gets like a terrible hair transplant and then goes rogue afterwards.
Bald by Choice.
And each step of the way, he pulls out another chunk of hair until
Is
finally,
after
by
the
the
guy
end,
who did his hair transplant.
yeah, he's killing all the people along the influencer who read the ad, who got him to sign up for whatever Keeps knockoff this is, and then whoever took him to Turkey to get it done, and then
Yeah.
whoever was it would be like Saw X,
Yeah.
but with Flev
Some people
or Bob, the nobody guy.
Yeah. Some people shit, I lost my train of
Some
thought.
people,
What was happening beforehand?
we were doing the bald movie,
The bald
bald
movie.
by choice,
Bald by choice.
killing his way.
Oh yeah, bald people. So Flev. I was like thinking of it. Like when I was growing up, I don't know what it's like being bald. And I mean, I like shaved my head like pretty close before, but
Oh, yeah.
never like it's just my skin, you know. And it's comfortable. I love it. I think it's really comfortable. But there used to be when I was growing up, I was being like, oh yeah, bald people don't want to be bald, which kind of makes sense. But I feel like there's some bald people where like it just looks right, and it's the good look. Like I wouldn't want to see Patrick Stewart with hair.
It is odd.
Do you? Like,
It is
I don't want
odd.
to see it.
Yeah.
It looks right,
And
and
you got it, the right
like-
shaped cranium.
and I think I think Bernie Sanders would have had a better shot if he was willing to just go full. If we just went full bald.
Honestly,
lie.
though, the
Not gonna lie, I
weird
think
thing
it would have
is,
done a better job.
I think if we could go into the laboratory of time and space and like drop that ingredient in, it would change the percentages of a few things.
Absolutely, it would.
In a TV media and Bernie's out here. He goes on podcasts. He talks to people, who aren't just on
Yeah.
TV.
I mean, like sometimes that looks good. Like I think it's great for Larry David, which is ironic considering Larry plays it. Yeah.
As
But
much as I
that-
associate Larry David with the
Yeah.
the donut, at the same time.
But Bill Burr's head changed. Like it looks rectangular when he has hair,
Sure.
and he looks a little bit more like I think Bill Burr's always been hilarious, but he looks a little bit
loves
more
Bill
like
Burr.
snobby asshole I'd meet at a bar, right?
Sure.
But when he went bald, he's like you kind of just respect him a little more, and you think he has something important.
Bald plus beard
And his
Burr.
His head
Yeah.
does have like the shape for it,
Yeah.
but it doesn't look at all like it would be that.
Well,
Yeah.
and hair on him really does stuff to the shape. Whereas
Yeah.
his
It's a very
just-
different personality.
Sure.
It works though. It's perfect for him. I think it's better.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's complemented his growth into like whip crack ball buster, but who has like a very strong, I don't know, it's weird. It's like he's not even he seems very thoughtful, but also very no bullshit about thoughtfulness.
Yeah.
In a way, which is nice. Which is like,
Yeah.
it seems like whoever he's encountering with some bullshit will get the probe if necessary.
I'm saying bald people are the shit. Embrace it.
Embrace it. Be the pineapple, man.